The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
All right, there we go. We're recording the My Backstory podcast. I'm here with Andrew Tompkins. You guys can follow him on Andrews.journey?
Yep.
On Instagram. So when I first started this podcast, it was all about, I wanted to talk to people about mindset and how important mindset is into achieving things in life, overcoming things in life, and just basically being the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And along the journey, I've met some fascinating, amazing, inspiring people. And Andrew was one of those people that came into my awareness, and my mother-in-law actually told me about him. And I was like, I got to check him out. And so I did, and I'm glad that I did. So I'm going to let Andrew share his story with you guys, and then you will definitely get an idea as to why he's so inspiring to me. So Andrew, go ahead. Take it away, brother. Share your story, like your upbringing, where you're from, your story as to what relates to like why we're here. And obviously I'll ask you questions as we go if I have them as they come up, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you. So I was born and raised in San Diego for the first 19 years of my life. Went to school just within the city area that I lived in. Lived with my parents and my two sisters. I'm the middle child.
Oh, poor you.
Yeah, it was a little hectic at times, especially when my dad was at work. Right. And it was just me, my mom, and my two sisters. It was scary at times, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
I graduated from high school in 2016 and committed myself to the University of La Verne.
Fellow Leo, I like it. We were talking about it offline. I went to University of La Verne, graduated from there, and so did my wife, and so did you. So
what a small world, because
totally,
no one has no idea what it is.
Right.
So I went there, originally committed to journalism, and then took 6 writing classes in a semester and realized that I hated writing. And so I switched to business, and I'm still a business marketing major. My first year there was absolutely amazing. I dove for the university. I broke 2 school records and qualified for regionals.
That's awesome.
Out of the entire swim and dive team, I was the only one to qualify for regionals. So I was very, very happy with that.
Did you do that in high school? Like your whole time in high school, were you a diver or swimmer?
Yeah, I've been a diver since I was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. It's been my sport. It was a lifestyle, basically. And so that first year was just one of the most amazing years of my life. I met some really nice friends, and especially my friends through the swim team. We just had a ball, and I just felt like I was at home at school. And that's all you kind of want out of a university.
Totally.
So the first year passed, and summer was a blast. I had a lot of adventures. We went on road trips. We did a lot of hiking and walking around. And then all of a sudden, the first year of sophomore year comes, and we're back. And I was like, wow. Since I had been a journalism major, it had been writing. And now it was all math. And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. So I spent endless hours going to the library, going to tutoring, getting help throughout that semester. And I was doing very well. And then November comes, and I miss doing everything and all my practices and classes and coming home for Thanksgiving. I just kind of noticed that my right knee started to hurt. And I wasn't sure if it was a dive injury or I just tweaked it on the stairs or something, because I'm like notorious for being the most clumsy person alive. I trip over nothing.
Right.
And so I just kind of, wanted to walk it off. And I was like, well, I'm sure it's nothing. Of course, it's never nothing, but I was in that mindset. So I just continued on, and my knee started to hurt more and more, but I just kept on brushing it off. I was like, I have a semester to finish. I have classes to finish. Like I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where I literally could not walk. My knee was very, very swollen, and it hurt all the time, day, night, elevated, not elevated, walking, not. It was just this extreme deep pain. Yeah. And then I was like, all right, it's time to check this bad boy out and see what's actually going on. So I went to the health office at the school, and then the athletic trainers, and they really didn't have any idea what it was either. They thought I had pulled an IT band or torn my meniscus. And so I did all of those tests, and they all came out negative. Yeah. And so finally they suggested I get an x-ray. So jump to December. I had just finished my last final, and I'm coming back home, and I get an x-ray at our local Kaiser, and they say that I will hear from them within 3 to 5 days to get the results. And they called 2 hours later, and they said, you need to come in for an MRI next week because it appears that there are bone lesions, like something's eating your bone. And I was like, the first thing that came to my head was, oh my God, I have a flesh-eating bacteria. What am I going to do? How am I going to bring it to my family that I'm being eaten alive from the inside?
Some amoeba.
Yeah, seriously. I had no idea what was going on. And then I would like sit down and kind of like see if I could like feel anything, like, but no. Yeah. And so I went and got that MRI, and of course, with MRIs, they're like, wait 2 to 4 weeks. And, you know, we want to hear from them in 2 to 4 minutes.
Yeah, for sure, man. That must have been like a dreadful, like 2 weeks, like waiting for like the results of that.
It wasn't 2 weeks. It was a day.
Oh, wow.
So the very next day, on December 19th, 2017, I was diagnosed with bone cancer. And it was the biggest shock of my life because you never think you're going to get cancer until you do. Yeah. And I just was so confused and angry and sad. Like, why is it me? Why did I get cancer? I was like, I'm an athlete. Like, I take care of my body. Like, why is this happening to me? Okay. And so I just spent that first day just feeling so defeated and so crumbled down. Like, what is my life about to be like? Am I going to be able to beat this?
Did you have like family or anything with you when you got that diagnosis?
So it came as a phone call, actually. And the doctor just kind of bluntly said it was like, hi, just wanted to let you know that your MRI is consistent with bone cancer. And I kind of just was like, what? Excuse me? Yeah, they were like, I can give you a minute to process. And I was like, I'm going to need a lot more than a minute. Right. And so I yelled for my dad, and it came off kind of rude. And everyone was telling me that I was being rude, but I called him and we went outside and I let him talk to the doctor. And I just had like a complete meltdown. It was...
Can't even imagine getting that kind of a phone call. I mean, it seems like doctors, there's some that, I don't know if there's a right way of doing it to let somebody know they have cancer. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way. I would say that a phone call is probably the wrong way if I were to choose. Something that, you know, with my wife, when we were doing genetic testing for our kids before she wanted to know the gender, they test you for all kinds of genetic disorders, right? I didn't know that when I was getting that test. We were like, oh, cool, we're going to find out what we're having early. Great. And she got a call from one of the nurse practitioners there saying that she tested positive for a genetic disorder. I think it's called Tay-Sachs, where like your kid will be born and it's vital, everything's good, and then it declines and then dies like at a year or something like that.
Wow.
And so then she called me at work frantic, like, you need to go get tested because if you're a carrier too, then we're totally screwed and this and that. Come to find out, it was nothing. It was not Tay-Sachs. It was an iron overload. It was hemochromatosis. And that's the kind of things, the mistakes that get made like over the phone when it's like, what? Like, what are you doing? That had to be the worst phone call ever.
It was. Yeah. It truly was. Yeah. And I mean, I just sat there and thought, you know, I'm 19. I still have my entire life to live. Like, now I can't go back to school. I have to come home. You know, all my friends are continuing their journeys and stuff. And I don't know what my life is about to look like for 2018. So, of course, I had to go in for more testing, more blood work. And they found out that the specific cancer was osteosarcoma. And there are two types of it. There's a low grade where you just need surgery and you're okay. Yeah. And then there's a high grade where you need all the chemo and yucky stuff. And I just knew that it was going to be high grade just because of my luck. And it was. So I didn't start chemo until January 15th, 2018. And the way it went was I got a round of 2 chemos at once, got 2 weeks off, and then got a week of chemo in the hospital, got the weekend off, and then had to go back another week.
So what are you doing the whole time you're there? You're getting shot up with chemo drugs, and then you just kind of hang out in the hospital room, and then...
Yeah, for 5 days, because with the certain drug that I was taking, it's called methotrexate, you have to wait until it's cleared your body enough so it doesn't... so you're not risking kidney damage or anything like that. And they're constantly pumping you with fluid, saline, sodium bicarbonate, to the point where like you're peeing every hour with so much fluid. And like I couldn't eat or drink because I was so full of fluid, like nothing sounded appetizing just because I was so pumped up. Yep. But in those 5 days, I had about 12 of them. I would like watch TV. I would binge watch Netflix. I think I completed like 3 different series in the hospital. I started crossword puzzles. I really got into calligraphy, which is something I still pursue and I'm very passionate about. And I think that passion sparked in the hospital, which I'm grateful for. I wish I'd found the spark another way. So I had to go through 18 rounds of that, or 6 cycles. And in between, they gave me a small break to recover. And I had my surgery. So the tumor was in my right distal femur, which is like right above the knee. And so the way that they do it is, for surgery, they cut off all the cancerous bone in the femur and just a little bit more to make sure that there's clear margins. And then they take that part of the femur out and they take a little bit of the tibia, and they have this internal prosthetic that they drill up into the femur and down into the tibia. So I have my own kneecap, but I have an artificial knee, and then going upwards towards the femur, about 7-8 inches of it is just a metal rod holding it together. So that was a major surgery on April 5th, 2018. And recovering from that was very, very difficult. It was one of the biggest trials of my life, learning how to walk again. And I think the most frustrating part about it was what 20-year-old doesn't know how to walk. It almost felt dehumanizing because I was like, okay, you know, I'm 20, you know, I'm supposed to be independent in college, you know, figuring out my own life and my lifestyle, and I can't walk. Like, it was so bizarre to me that I was just in this position. But I powered through it, and there were, a bit of complications along the way. I ended up developing appendicitis between chemo treatments. Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
The doctors were like, "What are you doing here? We're sick of seeing you." And so,
You're like, I'm sick of being here.
yeah, but it ended up being one of the shortest hospital stays I've ever had.
Yeah.
And my doctor called the next day and was like, "Great news. You should be recovered just in time for your next round of chemo." I was like, "Thank you, doctor. That's the perfect news I wanted to hear."
Did you have a appendicitis?
Yeah.
So they had to take your appendix out too?
Yep.
Ugh.
All happened in one night. I was admitted into the emergency room around 7, diagnosed with appendicitis around 3 at 7:30 a.m. They performed the operation. It was laparoscopic, so it was only about 45 minutes. And I went into outpatient recovery and was up and cognizant around 9:30, 10, and they sent me home.
Oh, so it must be a lot better than it used to be. Because I remember when people have appendicitis where they do the appendectomy where it's like, my brother had one, and he was like holding a pillow, and like it was pretty painful. I mean, he had a scar like across like his abdomen, and it was not like a fun procedure. But I'm sure if it's laparoscopic, I'm sure it probably wasn't as bad, but still probably sucked.
It still hurt, and they worry about having a little bit of air in the body, so sometimes that hurts.
Yeah.
And it hurts in the shoulders because the air tends to rise. But I only have 3 little scars. And it's kind of funny, kind of not, because about 2 years earlier, Julia, my little sister, had appendicitis and went through the same thing.
Oh, wow.
So we have matching scars, which is, kind of cool, but kind of not, because appendicitis is no joke.
Yeah.
So there were trials and tribulations among the already hard chemo path that I was on, but I somehow powered through it with the faith of God and all the support with my family and friends, and through Andrew's journey as well. I think the journey would have been a lot different and a lot harder if I didn't have Andrew's journey. It really helped me see all of the support I have and all the people who have similar stories and are coming to me for help because they find me inspiring, or people I can talk to and ask questions just for reassurance. And so finally, after all of that craziness, on August 31st, 2018, I had completed my last treatment and was cleared to go to the hospital, cleared to leave the hospital, and I was declared NED from that point, no evidence of disease. And I kind of felt like I had my life back, like I had beaten this cancer, and all I had to do was focus on walking again, which learning how to walk when you're not being poisoned by chemo is a lot easier.
Right, I bet.
And so just going into the fall and winter months of 2018, I was learning to walk again very, very quickly, and I wasn't relying on a wheelchair or crutches as much, and eventually I could walk on my own for short distances, and it was just amazing. So my goal was to make it back to school in February of 2019 for the spring semester, and I made that goal, which was
nice.
Awesome. I had my checkup scans in January, and they came out clear. So my next ones were supposed to be in April. So for the spring semester 2019, I ended up taking 17 units to try to, stay ahead / catch up to where I was. It was a big workload, but I'm a studious student. I love school, love being a nerd like that. And
that's my wife always says her hidden talent is school, and so we both love
really
school, so
is.
I get it.
Honestly,
completely.
if I could stay in school forever, I would, but I can't afford that debt, like at all. Unless you can just go to school until you die, then it's like
Yeah.
I think I'd be set. And so I was working on that. I had volunteered to be an assistant coach for La Verne's dive team.
Nice.
Which I was really happy to take because it was the closest to diving I'll ever get again. Because of my leg, I'm not able to perform any high impact sports.
Got it.
So I was really, really upset that I had to give up diving, and I didn't even know I had to give it up until I did.
Yeah.
And so life was just amazing. And I felt like, that was just a bump in the road, and here I am, and I'm just going to continue like 2018 didn't happen and get on with my life, get a degree and find a job and just kind of thrive with not only the school experience, but with the life experience I have, because I feel like I have a little more life experience than the average young adult. Yeah, from the average young adult. And so I was just powering through. In late March, I decided to get in the pool again and start swimming because I'm allowed to swim. And that was a crazy but very rewarding experience. The fact that I could actually swim on my own.
Yeah.
And it left me like super, super winded. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe you're pushing yourself too hard doing, 20 laps when you haven't swam in maybe nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I waited a week and I went back and maybe did like 10 laps and felt the same amount of exhaustion. And I was just like, okay, well, maybe I'm still pushing myself too hard. And then I realized that just in general, if I walked a long distance or had to go upstairs, that it would take my breath away a little more than usual, which I thought was just really odd. Maybe I'd been pushing myself too much. Maybe I needed more rest. No college kid has like a sound sleep schedule. So
yeah,
maybe I just needed to actually be proactive about that. And so it kind of carried on into April, and I realized my labored breathing was a little bit unusual, really abnormal. And so, you kind of brush it off as, overworking yourself, but sometimes that's what you got to do as a college student.
Yep.
And so, in comes my 21st birthday, and I decided to spend it at home in San Diego with my family. And, my mom was like, oh, by the way, I scheduled a CT scan on that day. And I was like, Mom, I just wanted to get up and have a margarita. Now you're telling me I have to wait.
Right.
So I waited, I was patient, and I did my CT scan and finally went home, had a strawberry margarita, and life was good. It was good.
It usually is after a margarita.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone was like, that's a really good choice of first drink. And so then I went back to school the next day because it was our swim and dive banquet. And it was nice, but we were all looking forward to going to the bar afterwards. Since I was finally legal, I could go to the bar with all the big kids.
What bar did you want to go to?
We went to Lordsburg.
That's my spot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And it's ritual that you take that you have a drink of your own, and then you have what's called the blowjob shot, and then everyone does a Vegas bomb, and then whoever's birthday it is has to go jump into the town fountain and take a lap around it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Late at night. So I hopped in and was walking around. It was freezing. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like trying to walk in a circle, but like it just it was kind of messy. Given it was my second day of being 21.
Right.
But then I had gotten out and I was like, man, I'm tired. Like, is it because I'm drunk, or like I couldn't pin it? And so And then Sunday was recovery day. So Monday comes and it's my busy day. I have like 3 classes and I'm sitting down at dinner with friends and I get a call from an unknown number, which I think is like really weird, but I answer it anyways, and it's my oncologist. And I was like, okay. And he was like, do you think you can step outside for a minute? And I'm thinking, crap, but okay. So I go and step outside of the cafeteria, and he's like, well, I have your CT scans. And I was like, oh, that's great. And he's like, they're actually not what we were hoping for. And I was like, okay, not kind of, I knew, but I didn't. Like, I needed him to say it before I could believe it. And he said that there were spots in my lungs and they looked malignant. And that it was a very high chance that osteosarcoma had come back and metastasized. And I literally had no idea what to do. So I had my friend bring me my keys, and I just went back to my room and sobbed. And it was hard the second time because I didn't have my family with me. They were all at home in San Diego, and I was just by myself in La Verne, and I was like, oh, like, is this real? Is this real? Like, is this happening again? And then I got a call from my mama, and I can tell she's trying not to cry, but that she was crying before. And she was like, we've done it once, and I'm sure we can do it again. The prognosis may still be good, but it was so heartbreaking because I thought I worked so hard to beat this and kick this in the butt. And for it to not come back, and lo and behold, 6-7 months later, like, it's definitely made its way back, and it's already spread. And so I came back home Easter weekend and didn't go back to school. My oncologist advised me not to. And so I did further testing and found out that I had a tumor the size of a racquetball in my left lung, a tumor in my right lung, a tumor back in my knee, the original place of the cancer, and then evidence of cancer spread throughout my hip and my pelvis. Wow. And it was like a sock in the face, going from just having a little tumor, well, not little, but just having a localized tumor to not having cancer at all to it, I feel like being everywhere. Yeah. So I was diagnosed with stage 4 osteosarcoma. And I think the hardest part about hearing that was it can be treated, but it couldn't be cured. So the first thing I thought was, I'm going to be living with cancer for the rest of my life. Just even if I don't feel it, even if it gets to a point where it no longer affects me, like, it's there. And that feeling just made me very uncomfortable. So then we had to look for treatment plans and different ways that we could try to tackle it. I started on an oral chemo pill, and that seemed to be going well, and I didn't have side effects or anything like that, thank goodness, because some of those side effects from chemo are just so brutal.
I bet.
And a couple of days later, I woke up with a really swollen leg and a high fever. So we ended up in the emergency room and found out that I had a major blood clot around the knee and a pulmonary embolism in my lung. So I wasn't allowed to leave. Had to go to a direct observation unit, and they found out that it wasn't really a blood clot. It was the cancer spreading into the veins, which was blocking the blood flow from going. And so it was more cancer related. And I was just mad at that point because I felt like I was just being beaten down over and over. I just needed like something to go my way.
Right.
So thankfully I only had to spend like 3 or 4 days there, and they released me on some blood thinner injections, which I've been using to like currently until today, and it's been working very, very well. But my leg is still very swollen. It's about twice the size of the other, and it's very hard to carry around, and it's already painful enough with the tumor in it. So that's been another struggle that we've been trying to deal with. So I trialed the Savarga for about 6 weeks and went back and did more checkup scans to see how it was doing. And we found out that it was not working how it should have been. So they considered it a failure. And they put me on a new regimen that I just started, actually. It's this process where I get 1 chemo on a day, and then I wait a week, and then the next week I get 2 chemos in a day, and then a week goes by, and I have that next day off, and then it repeats itself. So back on Thursday, I had just done the 1 chemo, and I felt okay receiving it. I didn't feel too bad, but the next day hit me like a bus, and I was just achy everywhere and sore, and it was very hard to move because of the pain. And then
Is that common with chemo treatment? Like, what's the most common like symptoms that you would have with the other chemo that you were getting?
With the oral chemo?
With oral or the injections, like, is it like do you always feel like you get hit by a bus? Is it usually pretty like a visceral response to it?
Not with all chemos, but it's mainly the immunosuppressors that really, really bring you down. But I would say the most common side effects I've experienced are hair loss, of course, nausea. I really haven't had a problem with vomiting, but nausea has been a huge issue. And like a lack of appetite is something I've been struggling with even now during this chemo regimen. And then, yes, aching of like muscles and joints are side effects. And I used to deal with mouth sores and throat sores really bad, which weren't like bad, but just kind of like a major inconvenience.
Totally. Because
it was like unnecessarily comfortable and painful. But otherwise, I really haven't had like super bad experiences from chemo. It's just the pain, but pain, can really affect you in different ways. And so I ended up in the ER this past weekend, actually, for the high fever, and it turned out nothing was wrong. It was just it's a side effect from chemo, and we looked at the paper when we came back home, and it says possible side effect, fever. We were like, okay.
Right.
But we were just playing it cautious, which is always good, better to be cautious, but I'd rather not, spend my time at Kaiser if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So now this Thursday, we're going to try the combination of the 2 different chemos in one day and see how that goes. Hopefully it won't be too bad. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's crazy, man. What's the prognosis they gave you? What did they tell you this last time? Or do they tell you anything?
They really don't. They just say, this seems to be working. or this doesn't really seem to be working, so we're just going to keep chugging along. I'm also set to start radiation sometime soon too. And that's just focused on my need to hopefully shrink it and ease the pain, and to maybe get more range of mobility into my right leg. So maybe I can be more mobile, which would be really, really nice. But yeah, so that's more.
What are some of the lessons that you learned from the first diagnosis and the second one, as far as when you went and got checked, number one, and number two, like if you had somebody that was either just got diagnosed or whatever, what would be some advice you would give somebody struggling with some of the same stuff?
I would definitely say that you're going to feel a lot of emotions, and just literally let it all out. Go to your room, punch a pillow, scream, listen to angry music, however you feel you can let out those emotions. And then after that, I just took a really nice nap to recover from how tired I was from being so angry and emotional. And then you kind of sit down and you have to think like, okay, this is what's happening. This is where I'm at. What can I do right now to benefit myself later in life? Like, can I start exercising a little bit more so I'm in healthier shape when I start, so the chemo effects won't hurt me as bad? Or should I start a better diet because this certain chemo makes you lose your appetite, and having a healthy diet may be able to make you fuller quicker, finding stuff like that. So I would say once you've settled down and really process what's going on, and you're allowed to take as much time as you need during that process to really try to plan ahead as best as you can, because once you start, you're going to find that a lot of things are going to go on, and you're going to have to take control and find certain ways for what's best for you with maintaining different side effects or getting around and stuff like that. So
yeah. Would you say that when you first got your diagnosis, was there a lot of fear? Were you scared?
Absolutely. I was scared. With the first one, I was scared of like kind of telling all of my friends and family that I had cancer, because I feel like cancer is strongly associated with death.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that once you have cancer, like this is it, like the end of the line, and I didn't want anyone to think that I was just gonna like kick the bucket or give up or anything. Like,
did that ever enter your mind though? Because coming from the outside, I've never had cancer, but like I think all of us in modern society have been touched in one way, shape, or form with cancer. Either whether we know somebody that has cancer, family member, whatever, and it's usually has a negative connotation. Did that ever enter your mind though? Like the fear of like, man, this might be it. Did that, like, were you scared of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And especially this time around too, having my doctor say that it's not curable. It's like, all right, well, if it's not curable, then are we fighting to just get it to a certain size? Or, how is my quality of life going to be now? Right. Are you guys just fighting to see, what you can do? Or, will I run out of options, and then if I, worst case scenario, do run out of options, like how much time do I have left from that point?
Have you noticed a shift in the way that you live your life? Do you value it more? Because I feel like when there's people that have like a sickness that like hits them out of nowhere, like, you didn't expect this, right?
No.
Did it change your perspective on anything? And if so, in what ways?
I think as cliche as it sounds, I feel like I had a life shift just because it's kind of ironic actually, because I feel like I spent a lot of time trying to focus on myself and my own well-being before I had cancer, and after I got cancer, well, I still put myself first. When I need to, I feel like I'm kind of focused on making sure other people are okay, because I know this cancer diagnosis and journey doesn't just affect me. It affects my friends. It affects my entire family. And so in order for us to fight, like, we all have to be on the same page and we all have to have good mindsets. And so I find myself kind of looking after my family and friends maybe just a little bit more than myself, because I know where I'm at mentally. And given the experience I have with battling cancer, I feel like I know where I need to be and I can get to that point. But it's just making sure that my family can reach that point too.
Right. Where are you mentally? I mean, as far as my mindset is concerned, like, where are you in the fight? How do you stay in the fight? How do you like keep like plugging along? Because I think a lot of people, I've seen people in my life where it's like the littlest things that come into their life like completely like crumble their life. They just fall apart. They fall to pieces and they can't handle it. But then I see guys like you who are like, you're young, man, 21, you know, and you're battling this as a second time around. And it's like, it's multiple things and you keep choosing to fight when a lot of other people just lay down. So what is it that keeps you in the fight?
So something you said was you see your friends or people your age, and I'm not calling you old, but usually people around your age have gone through college, gotten a degree, had a job, maybe gotten married and started a family, and I'm 21. I haven't been able to do any of that yet.
Right.
And I know that there are people in my situation who don't end up getting to do that. And so, you know, I want to be able to graduate with my degree and get a job. And my older sister just gave birth to a baby boy. So now I have a nephew that I want to grow up with and I want to teach him things. And so it's like I still have my full life ahead of me that I haven't lived yet. And I feel like I deserve that right to experience it. And I won't let cancer or any of its side effects get in the way of that, just because I feel like I deserve to enjoy those milestones as much as a healthy person does.
Right. I think that's commendable, because I think, like I said, like, some people wouldn't be able to have that mindset, you know, of looking ahead, like looking into the future and saying like, listen, this is what I could have. I see other people and they have it. Like, there's no reason why I can't. And then you just keep fighting and keep going. Mm-hmm. Has there been moments where you're like, you know what, I just want to give up? Like, have you had those moments? And then if so, like, was it just getting back to that future of like thinking about what you could have that kept you like, you know what, stop feeling sorry for yourself, let's go?
Yeah, I mean, they've only been like split seconds where, you know, things are extremely tough. Like when I'm just feeling horrible and in so much pain and nauseous, and then I get stuck in the hospital and it's like, oh my gosh, like, is this going to be the rest of my life? Because this is like an awful way to live, right. You know? But then I remember, you know, I have a family at home. I have a little sister to binge watch Netflix with, and I have friends that I still want to see and talk and gossip with. And so it's like I have to remember that I still really do have my life. This is just kind of a bump in the road, but you know, hopefully with the modern medicine we have, the pain is temporary and all my side effects can be managed, and we'll get to a place to where I will be feeling better and will be able to start living my life, as normal as it can be, which I'll definitely take.
That's awesome, man. Who inspires you? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Oh my goodness. Where do I even start? I feel like my entire family, just watching them kind of give everything up, but make sacrifices to help me. My mom makes me whatever I'm craving, and sometimes she makes something and it's in front of me and then I just feel like throwing up, and she just makes me something else that sounds okay and she doesn't complain or bat an eye. Or my dad helps me get in the shower, pushes me around in a wheelchair to doctor's appointments. My little sister helps me all the time to make sure I'm feeling okay, if I'm comfortable. And so just watching everyone step up to the plate and help me wherever. And there's even strangers that I don't even know who kind of see like a comment I write, like, oh, I love those crazy socks. They're so cool. And they reach out and they're like, don't buy any, we'll send you some. Like the fact that people kind of see my story and are willing to do that for me just kind of, it makes my heart pump, like it makes it flutter. Right. Makes me so happy that people are putting kindness back into the world, and just showing these little acts of kindness, acts of love. And that really inspires me to keep fighting.
What do you want to be known for? Somebody who didn't know you, say somebody didn't know you and, maybe never got the chance to meet you. What would you want to be known for?
I would want to be known for, hopefully being that person that just leaves in a powerful, endless legacy on people's lives. The person who never gave up, the person who inspired other cancer or non-cancer patients to take life by the horns and just live life to the fullest and not let any disease or disability or any problems or anything define them.
Did you have any regrets as far as like when you looked at your life before you got your cancer diagnosis, the way you were living your life? Is there any way that you would have lived it differently? Or is there something that you could tell somebody who's healthy and doesn't have like a disease or anything like that that's living their life currently, that you could tell them like, do it this way? Because I've had to face some really scary stuff. Like, is there something that you've learned about that?
Something I kind of kick myself every day for is I had been diving that first semester sophomore year before I found out about my diagnosis. I was actually diving like with this giant tumor in my knee, which probably was the worst idea ever, but I didn't know it was cancer. Yeah. But I just kind of wasn't taking it seriously. And I was like, well, I've done, I've broken the records, I've gone to regionals, like, what else is there to do? I wasn't pushing myself. And now looking back at it, it was like, I wish I had pushed myself and done all of my difficult dives and performed to the best of my ability, because now I don't have that chance anymore. Right. So I would tell people, do things you're very passionate about in case you lose the ability to pursue them with a cancer diagnosis, or just to, appreciate every little thing, like waking up and going to class, or being able to walk to the bathroom by yourself, like being able to put on clothes without any pain or discomfort, like sleeping in your own bed that's not a hospital bed, just kind of appreciating those little things that most people take for granted. Even like driving a car, because I can't drive a car, and I know that independence feels amazing, but I also know that I did take it for granted. I was like, oh, it's a car.
Right.
You know, I drive.
Yeah, totally, man. Do you get like encouragement by support groups? Does that help you?
It does. The only thing is there's not a lot of support groups that have people with the same cancer as me.
Right.
Because my cancer is so rare that they're kind of people battling it are kind of everywhere around the United States. And so most of the people there kind of have buddies who have the same type of cancer or similar cancers, but mine is so different from everyone else's. Like with leukemia and lymphoma, their treatments are very difficult, but they're able to walk, stand up and walk out of the hospital every time. Or even if I'm going for a checkup and don't feel sick, I have to go in a wheelchair because of my physical limitations.
Right.
And so I feel like while it is good maybe for like young adults just to kind of look at it that way, just as a young adult with cancer and not really paying attention to the specific type, I do feel like that it gets to that point where we talk about specific type of cancers, and osteosarcoma and also chromas actually are known as the forgotten cancers because people don't really know about them.
Right.
And there's a lot of lack of research and funding for them. So I just kind of feel like the oddball out, who kind of really has no one to talk to because there's really no one in the area who has the same type of cancer as me.
There's a buddy that I grew up with, and I don't know, I wish I knew what his cancer was called, but some of the things that you talked about, he had some of the same things happen to him where like his back was hurting, right? And so he went to he ran a race at, the Baker to Vegas run, he's a police officer. So they ran that race and he's like, man, my back is like really killing me. I can't breathe. Like, I don't know what's going on. So he went and got an, I think it was CT scan or x-ray, and they found like tumors in his lungs. Never smoked a day in his life, nothing like that. But it had spread to like his spine, his pelvis, like all these different areas, And like I said, I don't know what the cancer is called, but like, even though it may be a different cancer than yours, I know you guys have experienced similar things based on what we've talked about. There's also another guy that, he went to the University of La Verne, Justin Carrera. Do you know him?
It sounds familiar actually.
Yeah, we were in the same, he graduated after me, but he also had cancer. He's going through treatment right now. So I'd love to link you up with these guys, even if I don't know if it would help at all, but I'm sure that you guys can share information and, just support one another, while you're going through the process.
Absolutely.
That'd be completely, like, totally awesome, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you something I ask everyone that comes on the podcast. The first one I already asked you, and it was your family who inspired you the most. But if you had one book that you could recommend to other people, I don't know if you're a reader. I mean, you like school, so I'm assuming that you do like to read. If there's a book that you could recommend to people that inspired you the most or that's helped you the most throughout life, what would that book be and why?
I'm totally blanking on the title right now. But
we have iPhones.
Love Does.
Love
by
Does?
Bob Goff. And it's about this man's life and just how him, his wife, and his children go on little adventures and do different things in order to spread love around the world. Oh, wow. And they really travel around the world. I read that at the beginning of my first diagnosis, and I read it within like 3 to 4 days, which I consider, kind of slow, but I was also having mad chemo brain. So really it's a really easy read, and it's chopped up, not by like chapters, but just kind of like bits and pieces. Yeah. And it was so fantastic and really enlightening.
Sweet. I'll have to check that one out. It's cool because on the podcast, I always ask people like, what's the book that they would recommend? And so it's becoming like Oprah's like book club, you know, because like I go back and I listen to the people who listen to the podcast, and I listen to them obviously when I'm uploading them, and I'll go back and reference them. And it's like all these different book recommendations. Like, oh man, I've never even heard of that. Some of them I've heard of, but the other one, like that one, I've never heard of that book. I'm definitely going to be checking it out though. The other question I want to ask you, if you had one lesson that you could teach a younger version of yourself or somebody else that's coming up in the world, and you can save somebody else the heartache that maybe you went through as a result, what would that lesson be that you would teach somebody, and why?
I would say that lesson would be to never underestimate how powerful your words could be, because growing up, I had this talent for writing, but never really shared it because I didn't really think I had a voice. But I finally broke out of that shell after I had cancer because I felt like it was now or never. And it turns out I do have a voice, and it's loud, and it sends waves to all over the world and really affects people, and people hear it and are drawn to it. So I wish I had known that before I had got cancer, or, you know, even in high school, because if I knew I had that voice, maybe I could have started making a difference in the world way before I started this journey.
What was holding you back, do you think?
Just, I mean,
fear, doubt,
and doubt, most definitely, just because, you know, you feel like you have this talent, but, you know, a bunch of people have the same talent, and who's to say that your calling is so much better than anyone else's. But I knew that my voice was very unique and very different from the standard, but I just didn't trust myself to use it.
Yeah.
And I do regret that, because now that I know how powerful it is, like, I would have been using it for a long time.
Yeah, that's funny. I was going to do a video the other day, and I didn't do it because, I don't know, maybe doubt. But I was going to do a video talking about playing small ball, talking about how people, like, we have so much inside of us that we don't ever let out. For example, like, I bought that little tripod that the phone is sitting on to do like a vlog, to start doing a vlog and like talking about my podcast, talking about the people that I'm going to be interviewing, and like the lead up to it, and releasing it almost like a like a vlog, just like a video diary of like what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And because I think people relate more to like a video than they do to like a picture and words. You know, people don't like to read; they're getting lazier and lazier. So it's like, I'll do a video for you, but it relates to exactly what you were just saying, that there's been so many times that I could have and should have done so much more, and I was afraid of, like, I don't know, maybe judgment. I was afraid of like what people were going to think and this and that. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that like little conundrum of like, oh, I don't know what people are going to think, so I'm just going to like go behind, just hold back, and I'm just going to like play small ball and just be like this guy that doesn't really say too much. I don't want to be too loud. And that's definitely not the way that I want to live my life. And then I think meeting with you today and hearing what you just said, it's just like another sign for me to be like, all right, it's time to step up to the plate, you know?
Mm-hmm. Just let your voice be heard. And definitely. The people who don't like it, you know, they can feel how they want, or they can just suck it up. And the people who do like it will be very drawn to it. Right. And they can bring in more people that will be drawn into it. And that's how you develop a strong following, or right. That's how you start perfecting the voice that you have. Yeah. So,
how much has faith played into your life and into your diagnosis and to your successful like fighting of this disease?
Well, I was born and raised Catholic, and I've always had a very strong faith in God. And so, I mean, my family and I pray every day to God and to Saint Peregrine, who is the saint of cancer patients. And we just kind of bless and pray every single day for me to be pain-free and for treatment to go well, and that for everyone, they pray for me, but I pray that the rest of my family is staying strong, and hopefully God is giving them what they need to get through their struggles that they have with this journey. And they do say that cancer patients who have some sort of faith are 22% more likely to beat their cancer than people without any faith. So I am using that. It's all about mindset.
Mindset is everything.
Mindset is everything.
Is there, do you think it's made your faith stronger as a result?
Yes, it has. I find myself really clinging to God every day, you know, even if it's for the little things, like if I can, you know, get out of bed with minimal pain, or if I can have an appetite so I can actually eat and make my body feel stronger, or that I keep drinking water, or remember to take my medications, because sometimes I'm horrible at that. Yeah, I've definitely found myself coming closer to God and really staying close, because sometimes when life gets too hectic, like, God is that one rock that you can always rely on.
Totally, man. I'm going to ask you one more question before we sign off. If you had a bucket list, what would that bucket list look like? What are some things that you would want to do?
I would love to travel to Fiji. I really want to see the Beijing Disneyland. I would love for my family and I to be able to go to Hawaii, because we had planned to this year, and unfortunately I got too sick to be able to travel. So I would love to grant them that wish again, and we can just take a family vacation and be able to sit in paradise and try to not worry about what's happening right now and just kind of enjoy the present.
Totally. Why Beijing Disneyland?
Because it was released in 2016. So it's kind of the newest, improved, and very technological. And so everything they have is in very intricate details, and they really paid attention to everything, and all of their rides really have the coolest and greatest things. And another bucket list, of course, is to be able to walk again.
Right.
That would be really, really, really nice.
So at this point, you're not able to walk at all?
No. I rely on crutches, sometimes a walker to transfer in and out of things. And then outside, I use a wheelchair.
Oh, man. You know, I got to tell you, I'm super inspired by you. I mean, I told you that before we got on the podcast, and I'll tell you that again. Because I'm a healthy, able-bodied guy. You know, I mean, like I shared with you, I had my surgeries and my share of like things I've been through. Not to this level though. So like seeing guys like you and knowing that you're still here, you're still spreading a positive message. You still have a positive attitude. Your mindset is amazing. I think it's awesome. It's commendable. So I'm full of gratitude, man, for you being willing to come on the podcast and share your story.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. If there's anything that I can ever do for you, I mean, obviously I'll be sharing this podcast, and so a lot of people will be hearing it and seeing it. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
The best way for people to connect would probably be through Andrew's journey on Instagram, which is at andrews.journey.
Okay, cool. Is there anything that you'd like people to do? Is there like a place that people can go and donate or anything like that to a cause, to your treatment, anything else? Do you have anything set up like that?
I do have a GoFundMe set up, and I believe the link is in that bio.
Okay.
But I don't want people to feel pressured to donate or anything. But if you feel moved to, then saying ahead of time, I would like to say thank you very much for your generosity and for you to take the time to do that and to look at my story. It really means more than you'll ever realize.
Thank you so much, man. You're an incredible guy, and I feel very fortunate to have met you. So if you guys are enjoying this podcast and you enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate it if you guys would go to iTunes and go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and rate it too. It'd be greatly appreciated. Andrew, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Hopefully our paths cross again soon, my friend.
I would love that.
All right, brother.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.